I was driving alone that night, halfway through a cross-country trip that had already tested my patience. The highway stretched endlessly, black asphalt glinting under a thin mist that clung to the ground like a restless ghost. My GPS had died hours ago, leaving me with only vague memories of the map I'd studied before setting out. It was just past midnight when the glowing red letters of the Havenwood Motel sign appeared in the distance. Vacancy, the sign promised. The parking lot was empty except for a battered sedan whose windows were too fogged to see inside. The building itself was a two-story relic, with paint peeling off its wooden walls and dim lights that flickered sporadically. I didn't have a lot of options, so I pulled in, grabbed my bag, and headed to the office. The air inside smelled stale, a mix of mildew and something faintly metallic. Behind the counter, an elderly man with glasses so thick they distorted his eyes greeted me with an unnervingly wide smile. "Passing through, are you?" he asked, voice raspy like sandpaper. "Yeah," I said. "Just need a room for the night." He nodded, reaching under the counter to retrieve an ancient-looking ledger and an actual metal key. As he handed it to me, his fingers brushed mine, cold and clammy like they'd been in a freezer. "Room 7, upstairs end of the hall," he said, his grin faltering just slightly. "Lock your door. Don't answer it if anyone knocks." The warning hung in the air like an unspoken threat, but I was too tired to question it. I muttered a thanks and made my way to the room. Room 7 was exactly what I expected: small, outdated, and vaguely depressing. The carpet smelled like it had absorbed decades of cigarette smoke, and the wallpaper was peeling in patches, revealing a discolored layer underneath. A single bare bulb hung from the ceiling, casting weak light that barely reached the corners of the room. The bed was lumpy, but it looked clean enough, so I tossed my bag on it and locked the door behind me, just like the man at the desk had suggested. I leaned against the door for a moment, letting the silence settle in. That's when I noticed it. The silence wasn't silent. There was a faint tapping sound, like fingernails drumming on glass. It was coming from the window. I froze. The curtains were drawn, but the sound continued, steady and deliberate. My heartbeat thundered in my ears as I crept toward the window, each step feeling like it echoed in the tiny room. I hesitated, then yanked the curtains open. Nothing. Just the empty parking lot and the pale glow of the motel sign. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding and pulled the curtains shut again. Must have been the wind or some tree branch scratching against the glass. At least, that's what I told myself. I lay down on the bed, fully dressed, too uneasy to get under the covers. The old pipes groaned as someone in a nearby room flushed a toilet or ran water. The faint hum of the motel's neon sign buzzed through the walls, an almost hypnotic rhythm that eventually lulled me into a light sleep. A loud bang jolted me awake. I shot upright, heart pounding, straining to hear past the ringing in my ears. Another bang followed, this time from the hallway. It wasn't a knock. It sounded like someone throwing their full weight against a door. Not mine, though. I tiptoed to the peephole, feeling ridiculous and terrified all at once, and peered out. The hallway was empty, lit by the flickering overhead lights. A shadow darted past, too fast to make out clearly. My mouth went dry. Maybe it was another guest, or a staff member checking on the noise. But something about the speed, the way it moved, wasn't right. I decided I wasn't going to open the door for anyone. I backed away from the door, my pulse pounding in my temples. Maybe this was all in my head, road fatigue mixed with a little paranoia. I lay back down, deciding that come sunrise, I'd be out of there for good. But just as I closed my eyes, the tapping started again. This time, It wasn't coming from the window. It was coming from the bathroom. The air in the room felt heavier, like the oxygen was being drained. Every instinct screamed at me to ignore it, but my body betrayed me, pulling me to my feet and toward the bathroom door. It was slightly ajar, a thin sliver of darkness beckoning me, like a whisper in the void. I placed my hand on the doorknob, the cold metal sending a shiver up my spine. Slowly, I pushed it open. The bathroom was empty, or at least it looked that way. The light flickered once, weak and struggling, revealing a sink coated in a thin film of grime and a bathtub with a curtain drawn halfway closed. The tapping stopped, replaced by an oppressive silence. I reached out, trembling, and yanked the curtain back. Nothing. The tub was empty. I almost laughed, relief washing over me, until I turned around. The bathroom mirror was fogged over, as though someone had been breathing heavily against it. My reflection was barely visible, a hazy outline in the condensation, and then it moved. Not me, my reflection. It smiled. I stumbled backward, my heel catching on the edge of the tub, and fell hard onto the tile floor. My reflection was still standing, still smiling, though I was on the ground. It raised a hand, pressing it against the glass, and I swear I heard a faint tapping, like fingernails on the other side. "Let me out," it whispered. I scrambled to my feet and ran for the door, slamming it behind me. My breaths came in ragged gasps as I leaned against the wall, trying to process what had just happened. Then came the knocking. 3 slow, deliberate knocks on my door. I didn't move, didn't breathe. A second set of knocks came, harder this time, rattling the door on its hinges. "Go away!" I screamed, my voice cracking. The door handle began to twist. Desperation surged through me. I grabbed my bag, shoved the key into my pocket, and opened the window. The parking lot was still empty, save for my car. I threw myself out, landing awkwardly on my knees, and bolted for the car. As I drove away, the motel disappeared in the rearview mirror, swallowed by the mist. My mind raced, replaying the events, searching for some rational explanation. But deep down, I knew I wouldn't find one. A week later, curiosity got the better of me. I searched online for the Havenwood Motel, hoping to read reviews or complaints, anything to validate my experience. What I found instead was a news article, dated 1986. Havenwood Motel closes after mysterious disappearances. The photo showed the same battered sedan in the parking lot, and my blood ran cold. I wasn't staying at a motel. I was staying at something else, a remnant of a place that had no business still standing. And as I clicked through the article, one line stood out, chilling me to my core. Guests reported strange reflections in the mirrors, right before they vanished. I smashed my laptop shut and vowed to never speak of it again. But sometimes when I pass a mirror, I swear I see that smile, and I pray it never asks me to let it out again.